Thank you.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Me too.
Welcome back, everybody.
As you look very colorful today, I like that.
Okay, the first thing I want to do, while I stall just a little bit for people, to go ahead and get set up. The first thing I want to do is review the composition things we've already talked about. Shoot, Amy, the duct tape does not appear to be doing what it should do. Never mind, I have a water emergency. I'll have to hold on a minute because I have a leak. Okay, so the perils of the milk jug. My second one just sprung a leak, so I don't have one anymore. So just be careful, Elena and Aaron and Sue. They will spring a leak eventually. Probably when you least expect it. Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Can we do watercolor on the canvases? Or do you have to do something special on the canvas?
Watercolor doesn't work on canvas.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to just use paint.
Okay.
Because it has to be able to soak in.
Okay. I want to find out.
Yep. Okay, so sorry for that abrupt beginning, my spill. Last time we talked about composition a little bit more. Who remembers the first week what the 2 guidelines of good composition were? I told you there would be a test, ladies and gentlemen.
Break the rules.
The first one is there's an exception to every rule. What's the other one from the first week? Variety. Variety of color, variety of shape, variety of line, variety of direction, variety. Okay, so those were the first from the first week. Everything builds on the week before in here. So if you miss a week, that you did miss a step. But the exception to every rule and variety were the first week. Last week we talked about cropping, which means to zoom in, and we looked at Georgia O'Keeffe's artwork, those beautiful flower pictures. Cropping, when you can zoom in on something, it automatically accentuates what it is that you're trying to paint. And dominance, having one thing dominant. Well, tonight we're going to have one color dominate, so there won't be variety of color. We're going to have Payne's Gray be the color that we do almost everything with tonight. Now, it's always your painting, and you're always free to deviate from what I'm doing, so you can add other colors if you like. But I'm going to demonstrate simply using Payne's Gray tonight. But I want to give you a couple more composition things to think about. Okay, so exception to every rule, variety, cropping, and dominating, letting one thing dominate. Tonight, 2 more to keep in mind. Odd numbers generally work best. You won't often see 2 objects in a composition, but again, there's an exception to every rule. We have 3 objects in our picture that we're going to do tonight, and this is the color printout that should be at every table, although you're going to be brave and really do it from actual bottles. Pardon?
I thought they were supposed to bring them.
Okay. We'll see if we have enough for everybody that's going to do the... Okay.
How many, do you want like one per table or 2, or however many there are?
Probably if there's 3 people at a table, if you set them between you, 2 is probably enough. Okay. So, 2 things tonight. odd numbers generally works better than even. And secondly, don't kiss the edge. That means don't touch, like in this picture, if the end of the picture was right here, that little fern would be kissing the edge. I hope you can see that okay with the sun. There's not blinds on there, is there?
No, sorry.
That's okay.
Turn the TV.
Okay, so you don't want to kiss the edge. Don't the edge, all right? And the same thing on the side. Notice there's a little room between this point and the edge of the paper, okay? It's almost kissing the edge, but if the paper ended right here, it would be kissing the edge, and that creates too much tension. Your eye goes to where there's tension in the composition. The same thing here. If you crop the paper here, it would be kissing the edge. Okay, you don't want to do that. So you always want to have a little space for the eye to flow around things, and a room for people to move in and out of the composition. Okay, so the two things again for tonight are odd numbers and don't kiss the edge. Okay, so you've got 6 rules now. We're halfway there. This is a halfway point in our class. There's going to be 12 rules total. And I might have a prize at the end for anybody who remembers all 12, because composition is really important for painting. Okay, so is color. And we did this color wheel the first night. And Amy has a gift for some lucky person. I don't know if more than one person wants it. We might have to.
It could be the prize for whoever remembers
Right,
all
the
rules
first
ahead.
one that, okay, we could have this be a prize. The Watercolorist Complete Guide to Color. This has all kinds of color tips, and it has the color wheel. Notice again, the yellow is at the top. Trying to get that where you can see it. Can you guys see the TV okay behind me? Okay, I'm never quite sure if it's showing good enough, but it has all sorts of things about color. I love this big color wheel because this is sort of more like what we're doing. It's got several colors going in toward the middle. The middle is the neutrals, which we're staying away from. In this class, we're staying pretty much on the perimeter of the circle of the color wheel. It shows you color gradation, and it's a really wonderful book. So this will be the prize for the first person that can tell me all 12 rules of color on the final night. Okay, fair enough? Okay, that means we got to hang on to that, Amy. Now, I want to show you, we have a little bit of show and tell before we get started. These lovely paintings were rescued from the trash last week. I'm not going to embarrass anybody by making you claim them, but I got to tell you, that is absolutely silly, because if you don't like your painting, look at that. You got a whole nice, beautiful side. Watercolor can be painted on both sides. Watercolor paper is expensive, okay? It's a real gift that you have it in this class, but for me, you know, this is kind of funny. Last week, I went through some of my old paintings, and I decided some that I would paint on the back of them, and I had one on the stack on my desk, and my best friend came over, and she now owns that painting because she liked the other side of it. But yeah, don't throw them away because you can use the back side. If you don't like both sides, then you can throw it away. Doug?
The ones you rescued from the trash,
Yes?
do you see any like of those first points of composition brilliantly expressed in those?
Well, this has a lot of variety. I really like the variety that I'm seeing here. And this has an odd number. It has 5 trees, 5 main trees. So thank you for that. Yes, the good rules of composition, variety and odd numbers rather than even. Okay. Now I wanted to show you a couple more things. This beautiful bottle, you know, I said we were going to paint bottles, and this person took it literally and painted the bottle. This is not what I meant, but it's cool that this was done, because then this awesome artist painted the bottle. This is more like what I meant. Isn't that beautiful? Hope you can see that okay under the projection. Okay, and I'll give that back in a minute. I wanted to show you, Rihanna's not here tonight, but I wanted to show you her glass bottle again. And she got complementary colors, the reddish color against the greenish color. And you're going to pass that back, thank you. And we're just going to stick with Payne's Gray, which is essentially the color here in the top and on the sides of the bottle. We're going to try to do a monochromatic painting, but I wanted to show you analogous color. Analogous colors are the colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Where's my color wheel? Here we go. A section like here, or like here, or around here. Any of those arrangements make a nice color palette for glass. Okay, nice color palette for just about anything. Here, Rihanna painted an analogous color scheme branch, analogous color landscape, winter landscape. By the way, next week, I said we're going to do mountains. It's actually a winter landscape. I'm hoping we're not back to winter by next week, but you never know anymore. But anyway, here's another analogous color scheme and beautiful. I think they're salt marks, but they might be alcohol. Rubbing alcohol has a really cool effect too. We're not going to try it in here, but you're free if you have any rubbing alcohol at home to drop just little drops of alcohol in and see what that does with the paint. Here's another salt in the background, which we experimented with on that first night. So those are some of Rihanna's analogous paintings. I wanted to show you a very famous artist too. Janet Fish is 83 years old now. She's been painting since she was very young. She knew when she was very young that she wanted to be an artist. And she paints glass a lot. She is the premier contemporary still life artist. And these are two of her pieces. I have to see how well this is showing up on here. Pretty good, yeah. Okay, the bottom one is a little bit cropped. Let me show you more of that one, because that one's really quite extraordinary. And it's a lot of reflection, and what you notice in the top one is that the shadow, the glass picks up the colors of what's beyond it, but the shadow is primarily Payne's Gray, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Okay, we're not going to do Janet Fish, fortunately, because that would take us a month. But I wanted to show you a couple more of her pieces. And here, this is primarily Payne's Gray. She's dropped a little bit of color. This is a rose-ish colored piece of glass, and this one has some fruit in it. This one has a red liquid, and so the red liquid is showing down in the shadow too, because of course the sun goes right through the glass and sends the color onto the table. You can use your imagination and do that tonight if you wish. And this is one of her most famous pieces. And again, note the shadows. This has a Payne's Gray shadow, but this one has the purple of the dish reflected in the shadow down here. So Janet Fish, very famous contemporary artist, one of the most famous female artists of our time. And I looked up, just out of curiosity, what her paintings go for. The poor beginnings of her work that weren't that great go for around $2,000. Her normal paintings now go for around $100,000. That's not a bad few days' work. So keep at it if you want to be an artist. There is money to be made. I'm working on it. My husband says, "Oh, I like the sound of that one." Okay, so what we're going to do tonight is paint our glass, and I did some cutouts of the 3 bottles for you, just to save you some time. And I want you to have the bottoms all pretty lined up. These are all on this plane down here. And again, if you'd rather paint your own glass, go for it, because that's really brave. But if you want to trace around the 3 bottles that I have at the tables, I'm going to do that in a minute. Just trace around these. And if you think that's cheating, okay, yeah, kind of it is. But you know what? The famous artists of the past used every tool available to them, and they were not ashamed of that, because just still turning it into a beautiful painting is a trick. But famous artists in the past used projection machines and copied things all the time, and they copied from other artists regularly. That was just how you learned. So don't be afraid to save some time and trace around your glass bottles. Notice I put mine in a different order than what you see in the painting. Here we've got small, medium, and large, and I went medium, large, small, just to break it up a bit. You can do it however you like. Also notice I did not space mine evenly. I have a little more space between the tall one and the short one, and this one is closer. These three are all about even. This is a beautiful photograph, don't get me wrong. I just wanted to do something different. So everybody's will be a little bit different if you space them as you want to space them. And if you have traced those around there, I'm going to pull these off a minute. You have the other half sheet of paper to draw your lines, and the first line is going to be a little bit above the bottoms of the bottles. This is the base line, and I'm drawing between the bottles. I've got a crooked base, and then up a little bit. See what I'm doing there? That end one wants to bend on me. Okay, and she's also got in the photograph, near the top of these, there's a window pane. See what I'm doing here. See, there's almost kissing the edge. That's almost too much tension between parts right there, but I'm going to let it, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shorten this bottle a little bit because I can do that. You can do that too if you want to. I think it'll be just a little bit better if it's not so much tension in between. Because composition really makes a big difference. See how that made a big difference in that piece, just shortening that a little bit? Okay, and the bottles you have to share at the table. There was like one set per table, I think. I'll give you guys a minute to get with that. And put out some Payne's Gray paint on your palette. I'm going to take just a minute while you guys are drawing to talk about masking. Masking, there is something you can buy at Michael's or Hobby Lobby called masking fluid. We couldn't buy it for this class because it's about $5 for a little tiny bottle of it.
Do you want to show it?
You got some? Do you know how much you paid for that bottle? That looks like more than $5 for
It's
it.
probably either 15 or more.
Yeah, they used to come in little tiny bottles, but, oh, excuse me. Here is art masking fluid, liquid mask, and feel free to use this if you want. If you're using masking fluid, you have to start on a completely dry paper, because if your paper is at all wet, you put that masking fluid in, the masking fluid soaks into the paper, and that's not good, because the reason for the masking fluid is you let it dry, and it has to dry completely, and then you paint over top of it, and it masks out or blocks out the white areas real beautifully, And then after your painting is dry, you rub that masking fluid off, and it's white wherever the masking fluid was. But if the masking fluid got soaked into the paper, then you're in trouble. Then it doesn't work. Okay, so masking fluid. Another thing you can do if you're painting your own bottles, I brought some painter's tape. If you didn't have a chance to get painter's tape yet, Roberta, if you want, do you have scissors on you perchance? Or Amy, do you have scissors? Yes. You might want to try using on your highlights, your whitest areas. Thank you. If you just cut a little shape and stick this tape down wherever your shape, cut out your shape, and then stick it where you want it, and then paint right over top of the tape. And when you're finished,
On the glass? On here?
on here,
Okay.
yeah. But it looks like, are you going to do the bottles with us rather than the ones you brought in? Oh, okay. All right. Is anybody doing from their own glass?
I am.
Okay. If you want to use any tape to mask out, here you go.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So you can use masking fluid, you can use tape, or we're going to do a non-removable mask tonight and use crayon on at least the short bottle. Because the wax, it's called a wax resist. It's going to repel the water. And I'm just going to draw some lines kind of down the side with the white crayon. Hard to see where I'm going with this, of course. And then some on the other side.
So these are where the white hearts are in the picture?
Yeah, in the little bottle, what I did was draw lines here and here, a little bit here, here, and here. Just these white lines. Now, because I drew it with the crayon, I'm not going to be able to lift that crayon out later. Hopefully I pressed hard enough that it repels the water, does a wax resist. You could use, if you wanted to, you could use the crayon maybe down this line right here. That's a pretty sharp line. In fact, I think I'll do that. Just one line. And it's just in the bottom part of this bottle. Okay. And then I'm going to do the bottoms, which is a curvy line. And I'm going to do a little bit of crayon mask where those lines are too.
That sure does look black. If you tap it in, it really looks black.
Well, I drew with a pencil first.
Well, yeah, but
Oh, the Payne's gray?
yeah, paint gray looks really black.
It's very dark, but it's better than black because the black is a dull color. That's why I said seriously, get rid of the black and white watercolor because Payne's gray is much better. And it's dark enough and it's going to have a little more life to it. I thought I would erase my pencil lines out, but it's not, I don't think it's going to erase very well here. So I think I'm stuck. My husband saw the painting that I did last week and said, well, you put the pencil lines in. And I said, yeah. He said, well, you're not supposed to have those, are you? And I said, yeah. It's okay to leave your pencil marks in a watercolor. It's kind of good in traditional watercolor to leave your pencil marks. If they bother you, you can, of course, erase them. Hopefully you've got a better eraser than what's on the end of this pencil, because that's not going to go anywhere. Okay, let me see where everybody's at a minute.
My wife was commenting on that. I said next time for rulers, I'll try to do it lighter, the pencil.
Uh-huh.
I never had any problem with that with the graphite paper though.
Yeah. You can use color.
Feel free to look better if I use paint.
Ooh, she's going right for it. None of this waiting around stuff.
No, make this pink.
You guys are ahead of the ball game. Did you use crayon on that bottle?
Yeah.
Boy, that looks nice. Can I borrow that and show everybody?
Yeah. Show us.
I want to show you one. She's ahead of the ball game here because I haven't even touched paint to paper yet. But this is just using the wax for the white. And it turned out real nice, didn't it? It's overshot a little bit down here. But that's okay. It still looks really cool. It could be just the front of the bottle, which would come down over that bottom.
I couldn't see the crayon.
Yeah, I know, I had that same. Who knows, mine probably overshot too. Okay, I would recommend.
Just like a little like line on this one.
I forgot to bring it up higher.
Oh, okay.
Leave this line in the line.
No, I didn't do that.
It's almost kissing. Kissing's not good in watercolor. Yes, no, honey.
I just have a question.
Yes,
Are you gonna show us how you get what looks like glass
I hope so. I'm gonna try.
clear so that it's clear?
I hope so.
In Nighthawks, he has the window, there's a big window,
Uh-huh.
and you can see the edge, but over slightly, he has light blue, just a
Yeah.
tinge of coming down.
Right.
Not at the edge, not the, just down to the
Yeah.
edge, but not touching it.
Yeah, blue works really great for that illusion of glass.
It did, it was, an interesting painting.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's like.
Okay. You know what, Amy? I think my brush fell out of my my watercolors. Either that or I took it home last week accidentally. Do you have a brush I could use?
Do you want one from one of the sets?
Yeah, if I could, then it'll be the same as what everybody has. Thank you, dear. Okay, so I'm gonna do like I did last week with the flowers and start by painting the negative space, specifically outside of the bottles, this line. And some of you guys have already started this and probably already intuitively knew what to do, but I'm just kind of loosely making a thick line on the bottom and a lighter line up above.
Are you using the Payne's gray?
I'm using only Payne's Gray tonight.
First space. Yeah.
Oh,
I just dripped a drop of water and it's one of those happy accident things. I kind of like where that dripped. So, and I'm going to Payne's Gray around the top of the bottles a little bit. Ooh, that's very dark. But I'm going to add a lot of water so I get some cool watermarks. And I'm leaving some of the white. Amy texted me a picture of the demo. Notice, even though I'm using only one color, making it a monochromatic piece, within that one color I have variety of light and dark. And then I'm going to go back and do this line down here too. Kind of make that gray. And just for fun, I'm going to drop a drop of water right here, make some watermarks, and right here, make some watermarks. And in the color copy that you've got to look at, you'll notice a pretty crisp shadow on the bottom of the glasses. So I'm going to go with that crisp shadow down there. Notice I'm holding the brush halfway up the brush so that I get just a point. And I'm going to fade those out. Oops, that was too dark. Oh well. Bleeding that out a little bit. I'm going to cheat and use a little bit of color that's on my palette from last time and just put some outside of the window, some other color, just a little bit. Not going crazy with it because I told you I was going to try to stick with just Payne's Gray, but this is a window after all. And the window, of course, is glass too. And as Jim pointed out, blue makes a nice color for the illusion of glass. So if you want to add anything to the window, I would suggest a blue. Okay. See how you guys are all doing in a minute. Very nice. Good. Nice watermarks coming out from there.
It smells good.
What is a watermark?
Watermarks are, this what she's got here, it's just
An example.
marks in the water. Just the models kind of neat. Yeah. And you've got a nice one right here too. That is a beautiful watermark. Did you drop some more water in there on purpose?
Not on purpose, no.
Oh, well, nice. Happy accident.
Happy accidents are good. Thank you.
Here.
Yes, beautiful. I remember that.
I think that's what you meant by watermark, maybe? I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've got a lot of nice watermarks in there. Yeah, that especially one right there.
I tried to paint it like, I mean, it's mostly shadow, but I painted it and then I put shadow on it.
Some people think they have to control it so much that they don't end up with any watermarks. I think that makes a
No.
boring painting. So the watermarks are good. Ooh, lovely. That's really dramatic. Can I borrow that?
It's way darker than I thought it was.
That's all right. It's very dramatic and I love it. I have to show you Sue's. She went really dark, but isn't that lovely? The shadows are nice. Is this Payne's gray?
Yeah.
Wow. It does look black here. It's almost like I wonder if they mixed it up a little bit and added a little black into it, but, huh. It's a lovely piece. And she's got just the slightest hint of color going, or was that just plain water in your bottles?
It's just water.
Okay, yeah, as it dries, it looks more transparent, but when it was wet, I thought you had a little bit of color down there already.
Probably just the dirty water from the
Oh.
bucket.
Yeah, well, there would be a little bit in it, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
Good. The whole trick, and Susie, I should have told you this sooner because it's too late. But the whole trick to making it look like glass is to leave whites in certain places, which is why I talked about masking in the beginning, but I didn't draw that connection between making sure you leave some white in your glass for the highlights. So that's why you've got two pieces of paper. So the second one you could do with white highlights. But I'm going to paint into the bottles now. And I'm going to paint the bottoms of the insides of the bottles, and I went really dark there. And it's brushing up against that wax crayon that I put down there. And it looks like I overshot a little bit on this one too. I can see already because I couldn't see where I was going. But anyway, the inside of the bottle, and then up the sides, this one kind of bows in a little bit. Because it's more of a square bottle. And you can see, and I'm going to leave this white right here and skip over a little bit and paint a square of color and layer a little bit. I'm going to do a layer of a pale Payne's gray and then let it dry, and I'll come back to it and layer over it a little bit darker in a minute. Notice I'm not worrying about putting flowers in these things this time. You can if you want to, but I thought it would be easier to just stay away from that for now. And again, here I've got that behind and then down the sides. And I'm going to paint a rectangle. And then I like how dramatic that little one was at Sue's table, so I'm going to go dramatic with this one too. I'm going to put a little bit around the neck. That's very dark. My water's getting dirty.
I might actually add a little bit of something to it.
Yeah. I'll use my clean water. I have clean water right next to it.
Never duplicate it, but it adds something to the paint.
Right. Now I've got to let that dry before I can layer another layer on top of. But I kind of like it already, and I think they already look kind of like glass. And again, the trick is to have some white areas. So I painted carefully around the white that you see that I've left behind. Okay, so the whole trick of making it look like glass is to leave the white highlights white. Wow, that's really nice. I like that color in the background too.
Oh, thanks.
And I'd pick it up and show everybody, but I don't want to mess up the way it's dried so nicely.
Just a little water.
You might sprinkle a little salt in
This here?
yeah, just in the background.
Bread was?
Yeah. Just a few grains, very nice. Yeah, yeah, you got the white. This one is really ugly. I would, if it were mine, I would lift some of that up with a paper towel, just so it's not quite so dark.
Okay.
But it does always dry lighter than what you think,
Yeah.
so,
Oh, thank you.
very nice.
Glass is gonna be my forte.
Glass is hard. Wow, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you did keep your white. That's very good.
How come you don't use your jet? For what? Water. When you do this.
Pretty colors.
I was more worried about the bottle than. That's the translucent.
It's got a transparency to it, because you picked up the colors in the background.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mr. Randall? What?
Oh, look at how dark hers is.
I think as white as the tea. I think you want to get some darker in the inside of this bottle, more like this one. And if you're done, you've probably got time to do another one. Or you can just add to this as far as putting in some flowers or background or whatever you want to.
So what weight is this paper in?
It's at least 90 pounds, but I think you said it was 140.
Okay.
I asked for 140, so that's probably what it is.
Is there with the 140 and the 90, is like, if I'm planning a heavy kind of paint intense picture, should I go for the 140 and not the 90?
Yes,
Okay, and if I'm doing something fairly light,
90
maybe
is
go
fine.
for the 90.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Paper goes up to like 400 and some, and it gets really, really expensive. Like, I mean, you might pay $20 for one piece. But it's sort of like your canvas. If you're a watercolorist, it's your canvas.
Right.
Yeah, I really like that.
I don't think I did the bottoms right.
Well, what happened is it blended into there too much. And you could, if you want, you know, you could take paper towel and blot that up a little bit. And then after it dries, go back and restate where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then let it dry. Oh, you got some nice texture from that. Kind of like that. And then after it dries, you can go back in and put darker in the bottom.
For beginners, what would you say would be?
Wow. You're a natural at glass. That new one is really, really gorgeous. They have one in this collection. Yeah, they can have a special show of his work. That was, it was so beautiful.
This looks like a New Yorker cartoon, like that. And if you think it's art, it's art.
Yeah, time to get up and take a walk around and see what everybody's doing, and it'll give your painting a minute to dry, and it'll give you a fresh eye on your own. That's really important to do.
Oh, cool, you put flowers in yours. Yeah, awesome.
Any tips or suggestions or
Well, I'm gonna layer, and I'm gonna layer into like this. Dark in there, a little bit dark in there, dark brown there, okay. So, after I'm waiting for mine to dry, my table dry.
Okay, but I'm not doing the windowsill behind it.
Okay.
So what do you
Yeah, very good
suggest?
shadow work.
I was thinking maybe I could do the window thing back like you do yours, because you're giving something inside the
Right.
bottle.
Right. Well, I think I would probably be done. We might layer a little more pale blue in this one. I like the overlap. The only thing is, it would distort that face a little.
There you go. Put something in there.
Can't really worry about that now.
Fix that now.
But I would probably layer in a little more blue here.
No,
A little
sorry.
transparent.
Oh, this is.
Nice strong one.
Oh, I don't know if it's she's trying to teach me about really good.
I started just outlining one bottle, but then I worked on the frame. When I looked up and saw yours, I said, yeah, you got that stuff.
Right.
Give it a, so you can see it.
It's like you're doing it by your
Right.
fingers.
Tops and forward.
It's pretty in the blue.
Okay, I didn't mean to lie to you. I just changed my mind. After looking at what good results you guys are all having, I'm going to put in a little more of the lighter blue. You've convinced me. Where am I going to go? I think I'm going to put a little bit. I'm gonna put a little bit more shadow in too. I'm gonna call mine done.
I didn't either. Well, he had, he needed to slap the one that.
That's what
Oh, yeah. And then he still wanted for.
Look at,
Best.
this one is really good. I'm still watching this. That was really, really good.
And then ordered before he did that.
So you got 10 minutes to finish up your masterpiece, and
The,
This is one of the
some of those things are so serious. I think. Also, my grandma, they may be up for, I don't know, sign up with. This is not good.
Really good. Really good.
What's up there together?
You nailed it.
Oh,
You
yeah,
want to do
this is
results,
easy.
you do it for half hour? We could do that. We could
What'd you
do-
say?
We could be rebellious and do it for half hour.
no,
Okay.
Okay, before you leave, I have.
that shadow was really nice.
Well, I would think.
I'm gonna need to.
Yeah, well, that's why I like film the wall.
Why? I didn't think you're the kidney Joe.
Yeah.
Who eats it all?
We saw all the food I
Yeah, the
got.
bottle's quite beautiful.
It's a great job. Thanks, it's okay. Oh, I like that.
The neck of it is really
Yeah.
And a little sunshine.
It's okay.
And it reflects in the bottles too. Sometimes you just do something.
I like the pink bottle.
Oh, I didn't think it turned out that well.
I like it. Wow, that turned out really good. Can I take a photo of that? I don't know where Amy went, but she's probably gonna want a photo of that one too. Where,
So is Amy an artist as well?
she's better than she thinks she is, yes. Her kids are all very talented and they kind of.
Got it from
that's where they
somewhere.
Got it, that's right.
Is Paul any good? Or does
I
he
don't
need
know,
to
I've never seen a drawing by Paul. I would hesitate to say he's not, but I haven't seen it.
Looking at a disadvantage.
Yeah, a little disadvantage. Yeah, we were.
Very proud of that.
See her, Susie.
I didn't do that. I didn't.
Oh, you did. So
Got a
we-
little heavy-handed with the darks.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It made you.
Yeah, I know. You just got carried away.
That's really good.
Stormy. It's a stormy day outside.
Do we take this home or leave it here? If we didn't use it, we just leave it last time, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, super nice.
That's really nice. Wow.
Yeah, it was just like.
Yeah, it sure is a little more springy.
Yeah.
What did you use acrylic?
I, no,
What'd you use? You watercolor?
at first I put it, there was the,
I like
it was
this
on
one.
there, so I applied the rest of the acrylic.
That's good. Good thing.
Yeah, you don't want to see finish.
So yeah, I think that and then I use that.
I'm okay with like some Netflix or something in your property. Oh, yeah. And the whiskey.
That would have been my second one.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I'm definitely my own person, you should see what I did last.
I'd love to see what you did last time.
I combine all different kinds of salts, I came very,
Let me know about that Himalayan.
yeah, I will, I'm gonna.
Yeah, when I walk up here on it, if you squint.
I thought you said water, and I said yes, and you
It's pretty good.
oh, okay, that's why I was thinking. How about you do that?
Yeah, but it had something.
I had a car like that.
And the guidelines of composition, once again, exception to every rule, variety, crop, think about dominance. Odd numbers are generally better than even, and don't kiss the edge. You don't want to create too much tension.
Rules of variation crop. I only have 5,
The first one is there's an exception to every rule.
exception to every rule. Or,
Rule number 1, there is no rules. There are no rules.
and then variety, crop, odd numbers.
Dominance.
What's dominant?
Dominance is if you let one color or shade or line dominate your picture. And in yours tonight, the dominant color is that. Dark blue. And also the shade is, and the material dominates. I mean, yours dominates in several ways. It's quite, I think, very successful.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Thank you. I said if I stand really far back and just squint, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, you don't have to stand far back. It looks good.
Just squint.
That's nice, Mary. I would take this line down one.
Oh, okay.
And I would also put the line, the width of this down here.
Oh my heavens. You messed up.
Oh,
She did it, we did. She did it.
yeah, the white crayons have to stay here.
That's not bad. It's turned out pretty good. So then when I turn it up, I'm like, oh, that's crooked. It's like kind of like a funky grape. I don't really if you want. Yeah. The other two are pretty good. And Rebecca, I like Rebecca. We'll have to paint together.
Now you'll want to go in and darken the bottom.
I was trying that.
Yeah.
I did a shade of, gray.
Sometimes you can stick like a.
Take the white crayon collection. You got a white crayon over here?
I don't know, I was like, use different colors of drinks. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, his book about it. Yes, I will bring that back. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to look at it at all yet?
Yes, I have.
Isn't he amazing?
Yes, it's very, very intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, thank you. Have a good week. Now we're all kind of getting to know each other, I'm sure, like,
Yeah,
are you gonna like showing me she has a thing in yeah, because I knew when she did Bay Go, I did that. Yeah, that was kind of cool.